Ladies and gentlemen, I was looking forward to this interview with my guest today. I have been a fan for a long time. I was the person for a long time on my birthdays when he would perform in New York. When the portion came, when he asked whose birthday it is, I would have to raise my hand to get my birthday serenade to, seal the deal for my birthday. He is a songwriter. He's a singer, and his resume is extensive. He's written for Jill Scott, Musiq Soulchild, Vivian Scott, Dwele, to name a few. His voice is treasured by many. The king of independent soul and R&B. Welcome to the Hybrid Soul Countdown, Eric Roberson. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm great. What a great introduction. I look forward to serenading you in New York again.
Absolutely. I'm so looking forward to it. I would come to your show so much. I was like, I gotta stop. Like, I'm really in that crew. I don't know if you look, you know
Oh,
how different artists have the Eric Roberson something. I mean, what's the name of your crew of all your fans that travel with you?
but if anything, we might call them the Earthlings, but then it's the process, probably the process group now, the process
Okay.
family now. So
Okay.
yeah, but there's different crews. It depends on the city and everything of that nature. I'm just glad anybody shows up.
Right. Well, congratulations on your 17th studio album.
Thank you.
Um, that's amazing. The longevity. How was the process of putting this album together?
The process was beautiful. I
Yeah.
think I fell into a nice writing zone. And at the same time, I took my time, which was probably something different than what I usually do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
usually like, I'm writing, here you go, it's up. And I think it wasn't on my radar to have another album. I released the album right in the beginning of the pandemic called Here From Here.
Right.
And then I did a song called Lessons, and that took off. So instead of like just trying to push behind that and capture everything, I said let's just let that sit and let's write stuff and let's find things that really complement that story. And I think the album is better for the fact that I took the time to really put together 11 songs that I'm always putting my all into it, but this was a little bit more thought out, like allowing the process and the ideas to really come to me.
Right.
And that's probably the main difference. Usually I finish an album on Monday, it's out on Friday. you know?
And I was going to ask you, my follow up to that was there anything that you did similar to what you did on your first project, Esoteric, with this album?
Probably. I mean, the process with Esoteric, I was just being transparent. I was getting over a breakup. And I
Yeah.
think the process of Esoteric was I was writing in my journal, and anything that stuck out to me in my journal went to the music.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was a line that was very connected or whatever, um, and also I might would just let music play for like 5 hours, just one loop play for 5 hours, and maybe just sing to it till I connected to it.
Okay.
And I would say I didn't probably zone out as much as I was zoning out then in that particular way. But I think, the goal is always just trying to find the magic, finding that thing that takes your breath away. Or I'm one who my whole goal is to give myself goosebumps, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm chasing goosebumps to the moment where it goes, oh my God, that's it. And that happened, multiple times. Probably on every single song. There was a moment I was like, that's it.
Right.
Um, and I think that's probably the same from the first album to this album. That thing hasn't changed. Maybe the process of how I write has
Mm-hmm.
definitely changed. The process, even how I record, has changed a lot. But the one thing that hasn't changed is that if it doesn't move me, you don't even hear it. You know, it has to move me. It has to blow me
Right.
away. It has to make me almost be in tears or like have the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And then from there it's like, okay, I feel like I might have something worth sharing.
It's so interesting when you talk about the process of your first album, Esoteric, because I was looking at the different song titles, and the ones that always would stick with me was Now That You're Saying what you were going through, She Went Away. I'm like, Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A newborn child.
I'll
Wow.
cry like a newborn child. You know, and I'll tell you that first album taught me a lot
Yeah.
because I didn't understand how to take a compliment when I put that album out. I gotta say,
Mhm.
I'm in pain. When I met my wife, I was in pain. And so when someone walked up to me and said, "Oh, this is a beautiful album," my reaction was to walk away. Because I
Mm.
clearly what you're telling me is you don't understand me. And it
Right.
took me a minute that it's a beautiful album because it showed people that they weren't alone. It's a beautiful
Absolutely.
album because I don't think people heard men talk from that point of view before. And even my wife, like one of the first conversations we had, which before we started dating and things of that nature, but just the first conversation was based off of my first album. And the thing she said was, I didn't know a man could feel that way. Which caught me
Uh,
off guard. It was like it was different than saying, "Oh, this is a beautiful album." It was like, I didn't know like, I feel that way. I didn't know a
yeah.
man could feel that way, and it was like, "Huh?" You know? It's like we all want the same thing, but it's this thing that us fellas carry around called ego, and
Yeah.
that gets in the way sometimes,
Absolutely.
yeah, I wrote a song called newborn child. If this is it, if you're leaving, I'm gonna cry like a newborn child. And guess what? We all want the same thing. We all hurt. We all want love. We all fall in love.
Yeah.
So that was really what I can't even say trying to capture. I couldn't care less what anybody else thought at that point. That's just what I was
Right.
writing, what I felt. So I was very true to it.
It's funny. I was telling my producer, I'm such a fan of your music. I wanted to make sure I just stick to the right questions because even you talking now, I'm like, so when you talk about Goosebumps, and we're going to talk about Lessons, but one of the songs through just your early part of your albums, Obstacles, I would
Yes.
be in the car with my friends and we would just play that song. Now that's the one we would loop over like, what did he say? Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
And you always would
came,
hit it on the nose.
but I think a lot of it comes. And it happens all the time, but Obstacles was a very true story. I think all parties involved in that situation wasn't very happy with the fact
Yeah.
I wrote the song, but it was a very honest place. It
Yeah.
was it was it was very true. The beautiful thing is that this in perception that people will take that song and they'll interpret it in different ways. Sure, I'm sitting here saying, you know, see, we had a rule at Howard. Like, if my boy dated a girl, once to that point, whether they broke up or not, she's off limits, and we
Right.
we carried that forever. So the song's about, I run into this girl, I like her, and I realize, oh wait, she used to date my homie. I'm trying to walk away, but it's like there's this gravity pulling us. And there was this brother once. I was in Chicago, and he walked up to me and he said, he just finished chemotherapy. And he said, "Man, I sat through all that chemo and I played this song over and over again." And
Mm.
he said it got me through all the sickness, all through the trouble, all through the fear and everything. And I'm like, "Man, that's a song about a girl." And you found but yet he's facing a different obstacle. And even if the subject matter is different, the objective was the same. It's like the obstacles that I'm dealing with, I gotta get through it for the betterment of myself, for the betterment of the overall relationship.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing, man, is that you'll listen to it, you'll hear it a certain way, somebody else will hear it a different way,
Absolutely.
so the goal is
Absolutely.
to get it out so people can enjoy it.
It's been an amazing journey to be on with you, your musical career, because we've watched you grow up. You started off as a single man, you became a husband and a father, like all through this process. And, it's
Yeah,
been amazing when we talk about your current project and your first song, Lessons,
yeah,
that you started off with, it was just you. And then you went to the remix and brought on some other singers, Anthony Hamilton, Raheem Devon, and Kevin Ross.
yeah.
How did you decide, like, you know what? I need to add this on here. How did that process come?
I really gotta give credit to Raheem because before, and I think I want to give credit to my staff because my staff was probably the first. They were the ones who were kind of like, we should do a remix.
Uh-huh.
But Raheem was the first one before that idea was even around. He was like, "Yo, I really like this song. Send me the instrumental, man." He was like, "If you need me on it, like before there was no even idea, thought of it." And that's just how Raheem is. Raheem's down to work, so he's like, "Whew, that song's smoking. Send me the instrumental."
Right.
He's like, "I'm gonna cut it tonight." So it was like, "Oh, okay." So And I'll probably say that majority of it came just very conversational. Somehow within the next week or two, I spoke with Anthony, and it was just, hey, I got the song. Oh, he liked the song. Was like, I got an instrumental. Raheem's
Right.
already cutting. And then someone in my staff works with Kevin Ross. I didn't know him yet, but she was pairing me up with him just to kind of talk. So he got some questions for me just about industry and touring and stuff like that. So while having that conversation, it was like, and I was a fan of his work. So I was like,
Yeah.
hey, it's brewing. So I was like, hey man, I'm about to send this instrumental over to you, and it naturally helped. And I'll be honest with you, I think it's a perfect combination. I'm a big fan of all three of them. I'm honored that they took the time to do it. But in all honesty, man, it was probably gonna be whoever I talked to that week.
Okay.
Song could have
Yeah.
easily been, Fatim from Kindred, Dwele, and Anthony David if I just spoke to them that week. And I think that would still be incredible as well. It's just though, for me, I am very much I'm not very much like a calculated person. I'm very
Hmm.
much a present person. And when the opportunity is present, when the nudge is present, I go with the nudge. I go with the opportunity that most of my duets, the duet with Lalah Hathaway, the duet with Jill Scott, the duet with Marsha, is just that's who I was with that week.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
I
So
was
it
gonna
just
move
worked
on
out.
to another song, but you're talking about duets. Let me tell you, Goosebump Factor, that letting my guard down,
Whew. Yeah, special
Eric,
song. Special song. Special
Moo
song.
Fresh. How did you and Moo Fresh come together? Because she's somebody, like
Yeah.
she's special.
She
Tell me,
really
tell me
is.
about that.
She really is special. Um so DJ Jazzy Jeff has this event called Chasing Goosebumps. Now, what's so interesting enough, where what we do is we come in and we write and record an album in 1 week.
Mm,
So the first time we did it with Glenn Lewis. We did an album about 4 years ago. We brought Glenn Lewis in the studio. We just from the moment he walked in, we started writing, and on the seventh day we were mixing. Like we it was bananas. It was crazy. The album's out available. Anyone who wants to get it is called Chasing Goosebumps, featuring Glenn Lewis. And when we went in to do that record, Jeff was saying, "Well, what if we do this and what if we do that?" And I said, Jeff, forget all the rules. The
right.
only rule is that does it give you goosebumps? We are here to chase goosebumps, right? And then that's where the whole birth of, and that's been one of my rules really for the last, 20, 30 years of doing music. So the next album was we doing a Chasing Goosebumps was featuring Moo Fresh. It's not out yet. But one of the songs, so anyone who knows Moo, she's very opinionated, very strong-minded, just powerful. And we were making an album pretty much based off of her being a warrior, right? And so here we are making an album in 1 week. I mean, no sleep, just crazy as you can imagine. And the album's incredible. I can't wait for everybody to hear it. It will come out later this year, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. Um, but I wanted to write something that kind of offset that. So I brought in the idea of what happens when you take your armor off? What happens when you get home? What happens when the soldier falls in love? And that was the idea of letting my guard down. And I actually wrote it with two other writers who were at that Chasing Goosebumps. Carvin Hagen's phenomenal songwriter.
Phenomenal.
Yes, and then also Musina, who's another incredible artist, singer, songwriter. And me and Musina first demoed it, and then Mumu came in and knocked it out the park. So when I was working this album, I felt like that song fit the album really nicely, and asked Jeff and Mumu would they mind if I put it on my album along with the Chasing Goosebumps album that comes out later this year, and they were fine with it. So, and to me, it's a good match, and it to me it helps tell the story that I was trying to tell with Lessons.
Amazing. Amazing. Let's
Yeah.
talk about you also. I mean, like I said, I love the album. What made you put the song with Kenny Green of intro? And for people who who aren't familiar with Kenny Green, let's talk about what's your relationship with him, because he is deceased now.
I'm a huge fan. Uh, I think he was one of the main. He's the foundation of like R&B, hip hop for us kids who, for example, this is the best way to say it. For us kids who grew up in church, was at church every Sunday, but was beating on the cafeteria tables, rapping, Monday through Friday, and at the same time, probably going to the club or listening to R&B, loving Guy, loving Jodeci, Boys II Men, New Edition, Luther Vandross, whatever. But yet we also love Tribe Called Quest, EPMD, and was trying to figure out our way. How do we still be commissioned, right? Because we love commission, we love the whinings. How can we still sing? Right. How can we also honor that swag we had from New Edition, from High Five, from all these amazing groups, but yet we had this boom bap in us too. The Jungle Brothers, De La Soul, Rakim. Yeah. How do we honor that? And what I would tell you is that all through high school, all through college, we were trying it. We were trying to figure it out. And Intro doesn't get enough credit. Also, Kenny Green, for really being one of the main orchestrators of showing, like, this is how you do that. This is how it works. You want to sing and have hip hop elements in it. He wrote a large part of Mary J. Blige's first album, which of course is one of the foundations of hip hop R&B. He was just a great songwriter, as well as the lead singer of Intro, and unfortunately passed away in the early 2000s. And his voice, I don't think he's celebrated enough. We should just celebrate anyone who's made great music in general and has written great songs. And I was approached about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. They were, the surviving members of Intro were doing a reunion album, like a 25th year anniversary of just the songs. And they asked if I could contribute because, and respectfully, they felt like I was probably the closest thing of like representing what Kenny was doing, you know? And I was honored to say that, to hear that. So I was like, when they first told me that, I said, well, I wrote this song in college that I was pulling from you guys. Like, to me, I wrote a song called All I Want, and I was channeling Intro and SWV. If I was making an ultimate duet, I was like, this song is going to be for them.
Right.
And never got it to them, never did anything with the song. And then it was like, well, this would be a good reason to pull it up. And then the album never came out. Nothing came about it. So then when I was working on this album, I ran across the song, and I'm not really one to like take songs back or nothing like that. But I was like, what if are y'all doing a project? And they said, no, we're not doing a project. And I was like, well, what if I feature you guys on my project with this song? And then it brought up the other thing of like, so what about these Kenny Green vocals that y'all said y'all had? Like, there's like, who knows, countless songs, Kenny Green songs that this man recorded till his death, pretty much. Like, he was a writer and a true singer. And even when he was on his deathbed, he said he was still writing, still recording, and that's amazing. So for me, and when I had a chance to talk to his former manager and the runner of the estate, the main thing I said is, listen, man, I just want to pay homage. I want people to feel like we want to celebrate him. We want to let them hear somebody we have not celebrated in 25 years, and they were gracious enough to let me go through some of the vocals that they had, and the one that gave me goosebumps, I said, this is the one. I love this one. Can I use that?
Right.
And then what's interesting is when we decided to match it up with the song, it was already in the same key and everything.
It was divine order, because
absolutely crazy.
Your voice and hearing his voice, because I can still listen to Intro's albums now and listen to Come Inside and all those other songs. And it's just, his voice was just amazing. And it was amazing. So when I saw the credit featuring Kenny Green of Intro, I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah. One of my biggest one of my biggest rewards is just that some people are walking in and they, the ones who get it, get it. Some
Yeah.
people walk me and go, Kenny Green, man, thank you. And I'm like, no, thank you. Like that,
Yeah.
like I know how I felt when I bought the intro. I remember exactly Howard University. What was the daggone record store across the street from McDonald's down there? It might have been Tower Records. And the album cover just stuck out to me. I was like, what is this? And it came out either a couple weeks before SCV or a couple weeks after.
Yeah.
And I remember putting it in the CD player and just going like,
Hmm.
this is it, man. They got it. They
Hmm.
they solved it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just glad to pay homage to a great writer and great singer.
That's beautiful. And lastly, when we talk about this project, you were able to bring Pop Robeson back. We got a chance to hear him on this project. How did you get him
Yeah.
back on on a new project?
He came over. I told you, I don't be calculating. My parents usually would come. They live 10 minutes down the street, and they wanted to hear the album, and I was still, of course, working on the album in the same way. So my dad was on a song called "Do the Same for Me" off of my box album. It probably came out, I don't know, about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, or something like that. And the same way, my parents came over. I was working. That's the song I was working on, and the mic is on. And I was
Right.
like, Pop, why don't you sing a little something? And I think what actually happened was I had them talk. I just wanted them to talk about their lives. And actually, I never did anything with it. It's absolutely beautiful. My mother talked about the first time she saw my dad. My dad talked about the first time he saw my mom. And I think my dad was talking about how a friend of his was like, "That's one of them Carney girls. You don't stand a chance with her." And like how I'm glad he fought through that, man, because your friends were like would talk you down.
Right.
I wouldn't be here if he listened to his friend. You know what I
See,
mean? So
see, yeah.
and I think after they were talking, I was like, all right, Pop, now whatever you want to do, man, sing something. The take you hear is one take. It's just him straight down.
Oh wow.
Um, and it's just like no accidents, man. Even like him asking my mom, I don't even think he knew the end of the song was there. He's like, "Did you think it could be as good as this?" And she said, "No, baby." Or something like they started laughing. So we were just having a good time in the studio. And I think when they left, I was like, "Let me pull that back up real quick because you
Right.
know this might be something." And my dad, man, he sounds phenomenal always. So it's good to have him on there and
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. A great body of work. You do a lot of things, and so you added another title of author. So you
yeah,
took Lessons, the album, and also added a book.
yeah.
And you're an author now. How did you decide to do that and make a book out of Lessons?
Interesting enough, I have two other books that I was planning on releasing this year. This year
Hmm.
I wasn't planning to release an album. I wasn't planning to release Lessons the book. I actually have a book called Beautifully All Over the Place that will probably come out either later this year or top of next year. And I'm always writing. I'm always writing poems, essays, letters. I just feel like not even that I always want to stay in shape with combining words, but it's just naturally something I love to do, and it helps me process ideas. You will say something, and then my mind will like get scattered. And what brings me back to neutral is like taking what you said and kind of like formatting it so I can see it. If that
Hmm.
makes sense, right?
It does.
So when we had the song Lessons, we were talking of what if we put the song under like our favorite movies? What if we put our song on our favorite TV shows, like the favorite moment of Love Jones, our favorite moment of Martin, our favorite moment of Crooklyn or Malcolm X or anything Blackish. And that was great. It was working. But the first one we did was Love and Basketball. And I thought about like, what if I put a lesson under it? It's just simple. It wasn't anything in a book or anything I did, but watch the scene and see there's a lesson in it.
Yeah.
And the first couple were easy. It was like low hanging fruit. By the time we were like lesson 50, it's like now you really got to watch it. Now you got to peel back the layers,
Yeah.
and it really got serious. I mean, I thought we were going to do maybe 20 of those ads or something like that, and we're way into the hundreds now. We've probably done 130 of them. And what I would tell you is that people were asking for, like, you sound like you're writing a book. I was like, okay, maybe I am writing, let's try to format it. But those lessons have been very helpful for me too. It's not, I'm by no means am I speaking from like, oh, I'm some super guru and listen to me. I'm a person trying to figure it out and willing to share as I'm discovering. And I think with the book was very much a telling idea of, like, the book could have easily been called Layers just as much as called Lessons. And I think that
Mhm.
those two things are very similar. But when you peel away the first layer, the surface layer, and really look deeper in a scene or a word or even a song, like I said, we
Yeah.
just talked about obstacles. When you peel away the first layer, what I'm talking about, there's a spiritual layer under it. There's something else that's under it. And I'm really happy. I think, it's great. The book's been out for a while now. And I think now I'm seeing people like really sinking into it and saying, "Oh my God, I'm seeing this," and getting the impact of
Right.
the book. But I think it's a great start for me as in an author lane for
Mhm.
the other books that I have coming out.
What keeps you motivated, like, through your 20 plus years of just making music and building a catalog? What keeps you motivated, writing?
Being dedicated to the process.
Mhm.
I think I'm a kid where, as an adult now looking back, um, I'm very thankful that my parents didn't try to put a cap on my imagination. I had a very imaginative sister. My sister is enormously creative, and she was the one who was in art class and played in a band and all things of that nature. But I was a kid that was sitting in the classroom, and if the teacher said something, I might drift off and have no idea what happened in the last 15 minutes. I was the one in the class. I probably thought everybody saw a dragon over the teacher's head, and that the eraser on the desk turned to a race car. You know,
Right.
um, the letters came alive on the walls, and now looking back, I could have easily been labeled labeled with something, and I don't know if it ever got to a point where it really affected my grades or affected, a teacher really complaining, but I always had a creative outlet, and my parents gave me a keyboard at a very early age, and that helped kinda all those weird things that were floating over my head kinda somehow synced into that keyboard and synced
Right.
from the moment I learned how to write a sentence, my dad told me I was writing poetry, almost from the whatever day they said, "Put the word 'the' there and the next word," I was immediately going into poetry mode, and I don't think I put a pen down for the next 20 years after that. So for me, I still hear sounds.
Mhm.
And even if I go through a sad moment in my life or go through a happy moment or the pandemic happens, or you and I are having a conversation and you say something, I go, oh my God, that's beautiful. The first thing I do is go to there. Still, it's like, it feels natural. And for me, perception of like the process, my goal is to walk into the studio like it's the first time every time. You
Wow.
know? This
Yeah.
conversation, I wanna treat every time we talk like it's the first time we talk, you know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
the perception of it, um, and at the same time, man, I'm very fortunate. It's not that long ago, even though it was long ago, that people weren't paying attention, that it wasn't working out, that I was questioning, "Was I supposed to be doing this?" It wasn't that long ago to the point where do I ever get tired? Ever get frustrated? You ever bump into a brick wall? Sure, but it wasn't that long ago.
Mhm.
We did an event. I did an event with the band the other day, and we were tired and stuff like that. And I pulled everybody together. I said, "Man, we're getting paid for this. Like, paid to do what we love. Like, I know we tired, but it wasn't that long ago, man. We weren't getting paid to do this. So, like,
Mm.
let's just enjoy this moment, man. It's beautiful, that because there's somebody else trying to get where we are right now." And they're working hard to get there. We should work hard to stay where we are, you know?
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's what I still do. I still do it, 1, because I still love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I listen to you, I would go, how was your vision expanded becoming the husband and the father in your writing?
Become a husband and father, becoming a husband helped me expand, allowed me to write about more things that I was probably afraid to write about when I was
Mhm.
single. Um, it's interesting, like even like Music Fan First was the first album I wrote after I was married, dealing, and like there was a lot of stuff where like that's the album, the first album I should have wrote when I was married should have been like, I'm wearing a ring and I'm walking down the aisle. And he's like, I'm writing like, where should we go from here? And I think it was just more about like wrestling with the psychology of like, how did we get here? And I had to go through the whole ups and downs of how we get to this point where you
Mhm.
find peace. And I think it was also the moment of me saying, I can't write a song about waking up and changing diapers every day. So I need to kind of also look at what that person's going through and writing about them. Look what that person's going through. It was probably the moment I really started not writing as autobiographical, but yet allowing myself to become someone else. I might be at a red light and watch a couple walk across the street and I go, what they talking about?
Right.
Oh, what's their story? And then I would just I would literally I would be them in the studio. Um Having kids changed my viewpoint of creativity.
Mhm.
My viewpoint of creativity before kids was that creativity came before everything. I would stop making love to write a song. I would leave a Thanksgiving table to write a song. When creativity showed up, everything else stopped because it was the most important thing. Oh my God, I can't afford it to leave. And what having kids allowed me to understand is that first, creativity is a friend that we deserve,
Mm.
right? We often treated creativity like the best friend we didn't deserve. So when it showed up, it was like, oh my God. And there were times where I'm in the middle of writing a song and my child needs me. And I have to stop creativity and I have to trust that when I go back to it, it's going to be there.
Right.
And even if it's not the same idea, another idea will be there. And I think kids allow me to learn the ability to say, creativity, can you come back?
Mhm.
Something I never said in my life. I'm busy right now, creativity.
Right.
Can you come back tomorrow?
Right.
And I know that like that makes an artist cringe, like even to hear that statement, but you have to trust that it's the same thing. Like if you called me and we had a great conversation, and then the next day you called me and I was like, oh man, I'm playing with the kids. Can you call me tomorrow? You're like, yeah, no problem. We might not have the same conversation, but we're still gonna have a great conversation.
Right.
Creativity is the same way. What you can't do is I can't be so lost in like, oh my God, but what about the thing yesterday? I can't remember it, that you can't hold on to what's there now. You
I get
know?
that.
So I mean, I've recorded the last 5 albums, last 6 albums with a kid in my lap, with a kid in the studio.
Right.
Um, and I've been able to turn it off and on because of my kids, which also helped me realize that when I'm 90 years old, I'll probably still be able to do this because it's not a level of urgency. It's creativity. Come sit with me. Just come sit right here and just be
Yeah.
my best friend. And when we see something beautiful, let's just write about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I introduced you as the king of independent soul and R&B. And for this album, you partnered with United Masters.
Yes.
I'm curious to know, for those independent people out there, what made your decision to partner with United Masters?
Well,
Simply said.
that's a great question. So what we did was we did a distribution deal. So it's still
Mm-hmm.
independent. United Masters, one, sold me on several reasons. One, I have a good friend, Richard Dunn, who's there, and he was the one who kind of, I guess, sparked the idea of like, hey, you should kind of sit down and listen to us, because we can help distribute on a bigger scale,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they have partnerships in certain playlists that could happen that I didn't have the relationships with. Um, Most important for me though was that they had royalty distribution. Therefore, if I worked on a song, let's say Lessons, I worked on that song with a production group called Anakin Invader, as well as the guy who's playing guitar, a guy named JMO, amazing guitar player. So I can divvy out royalty statements to Anakin Invader and to J-Mo
Yeah.
throughout. And that was something that most of your distribution companies couldn't do. I thought that was a really, really, really good point, because you want to be fair. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be able to divvy out things that people deserve to have. But yeah, I mean, I'm also, man, if a record deal came out, a major record deal came out, and it made sense, I don't know if it would. I'm 48 years old. I'm way deep into into this thing now. I'm not opposed to. I'm not like saying down with the majors. I'm not saying that. I just don't think you should ever wait.
Yeah.
And if a situation comes that could improve your reach, improve your quality, I still own my masters. You know what I mean? It still makes sense for me and how I want to do my brand. I'm submitting the marketing plan of how we're working this record. And the beautiful thing, which is different in some other situations, is that my goal is to work this album for a whole year. So in 6 months from now, we're gonna still be working. In 10 months after that. And the beautiful thing with United Masters is they're open to whatever plan I have and going to implement it and let the cards fall where they may.
I love it. You working with other artists. I recently, let me bring that back. I had an interview with an artist named Austin, and he was talking about some of his musical influences, and he was like Musiq Soulchild, and I was like, you need to go listen to Eric Roberson. I said, because once you hear him, you're going to get stuck on him. And I want to tell you, because I think it's so important. I had a conversation with Will Downing, and I talked about him working with you and also Kevin Ross. And I think that you and Austin would make some great music as well. So I love just the synergies of all these songwriters working together.
Yeah, I never heard it. Where's he from?
He's originally from Panama City, Florida, but he did a version of Happier Than Ever, the Billie Eilish song. That's how I was turned on to him. But you should check it as ASTN. That's the sidebar. I know Reggie's like, what are you talking about in this interview? No, but I wanted to make sure I connected you with Austin, because I think that you guys would really have a great synergy. But my final question to you is, as a person being present, what is next for Eric Roberson and the Lessons Project and the book and thereafter?
I'm very open, man, to what shows up. I mean, I think my plan is to push this album, push the book, of course, tour with it, and then follow up with the audio book for Lessons, the book. I think we're going to start on that soon, as well as have the next book come out shortly. But you never know. I mean, I recorded about 4 or 5 songs over the last 3 weeks, and I'm in love with those songs. So you just never know, man. I mean, I'm very open to the idea of allowing what's supposed to show up. I'm enjoying the responses and the reaction that we're getting from Lessons, and that itself, the collaboration of that, creates more things. So if it leads to more conversation, if it leads to some healing, I'm grateful for that. But I am happy that we're kind of getting back on the road and touring again. We're about to sing songs that people haven't heard me sing live before. So I think just touring and showing people what I believe in. I'm very adamant about the first thing is you got to believe in something. The next thing you got to show everybody that you believe in it. So I think I'm challenging my staff, I'm challenging my band, I'm challenging everyone around me to believe in something, because I do, and I want that to be like obvious and amplified, so that's what's next.
Very good. And I cannot believe that it's been like 20 years. Like, your first project was in 2000, and here we are in 2022. And I thank you for this journey that you've allowed us to be on with you. If someone needs to go back and find some music, you've given us the gift of just putting it on play and just letting it roll. Like we could just hang out for a long, long time with Eric
A lot
Roberson.
of work. It's a lot. I mean, yeah, I lost count a long time ago. I mean,
Right,
my publicist, shout out to Raphael, had to tell me 17. If you asked me before how many albums you got, I was like, I don't even know.
right,
I didn't know. But like, or even like trying to calculate how many songs it's been. You know, and then all the songs that didn't come out, all the songs that we wrote just in writing to get to this point.
right.
It's a lot, but I think, you know, I've spent my whole time with my head down, just trying to work and trying to gain and create and stay up in the process. And I would say that over the last couple of years, I kind of stopped to just kind of see what we've accomplished. And I say we, meaning the entire team, my
Mhm.
wife as well, and my parents as well. Like we've been able to really accomplish a lot, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud that, you know, I've had people on my staff now that have been with me for over 16 years, and now they're parents and they're husbands and wives and things of that nature. And it's an honor to watch that, you know, not only this, that we've been able to really build something here that's beautiful together, you
That's
know. So
beautiful.
I'm kind of taking it in a little bit more now.
Very good. Well, once again, thank you for this music. Thank you for the goosebumps over and over again. And I appreciate you being on the Hybrid Soul Countdown. Once again, Eric Roberson, please get his album Lessons and the book Lessons at a online store near you, and let them know how they can follow you.
They can follow me at ericrobersonmusic.com. All the albums are there, the tour schedule, merch, clothes, coffee mugs, everything. You also can go to jointheprocess.com. You can see every song I make as I make it. It's a group of about 800 people who follow me in the studio, pretty much. If you're interested, go to Join the Process. But you also can go to Instagram. That's where I probably do most of my ratchet work at. And that's at Erro, ERRO 44. All my other social media handles, you can just go to ericrobersonmusic.com and they're all listed up there as well.
It's the Hybrid Soul Countdown with Kelly Kinkaid. See you next time.